Well, it's nice to meet you, Pradeep. I'm glad to have you on the show.
Hey Leo, thanks for inviting me, man.
So before I wanted to introduce you, I was gonna say to the audience, because I have a lot of bodybuilding audience, that I wanted to
Right.
tell them that this is sort of like the Nick Strength and Power of arm wrestling. But then I realized that you know about Nick Strength and Power as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I watch his videos every now and then, not regularly following him, but I watch his videos.
we'll get
So I
into
know a
that.
little bit about him.
Just to summarize before, in case people don't go through the whole video, I want to let people know about your channel. It's called Arm Wrestling Newz with a Z. I don't know
Yes.
why there's a Z, but it's very unusual, so you can find it easily. And I think really, for people who want to get into arm wrestling, it's one of the best resources because it's so frequently updated and it gets you introduced to the different names in the sport that you might want to follow. Like, when you get into a sport, like I'm trying to get into MMA right now, it's very difficult to know who's who and what's going on. But your videos are so well edited and quick that people can listen to a few minutes every day and quickly get to know about the sport.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why there is a Z in that. But before that, I want to say that sometimes the people who follow regularly, the arm wrestlers who are following arm wrestling regularly, they may watch my videos and they may think that we already know that. What is he talking about?
Yeah.
But when you are not a regular viewer, like if I watch Nick Strength and Power or some other MMA channel that gives the highlights or the news or summary, and I'm really interested to see that because I don't know anything about that or I don't have time to be updated with everything. So these channels help amazingly in that context. And talking about the Z, at first I was trying to name my channel Armwrestling Newz, NEWS, regular name, but there were two channels with the same name already. One was at about 3,000 subscribers and one was about 1,600 or 1,700 subscribers. And at that time, about almost 2 years ago, that was a big number in arm wrestling.
Yeah.
Right now it isn't, but at that time it was. So I thought, what should I do? So I named it with a Z. At first, you may not know it. At first, my channel was named Armwrestling Noobs, NWBS.
Oh, I didn't
So
even.
I thought I would create something like for the general audience who are not really top tier and who want to do something in arm wrestling. I may connect with them. But then I changed it to Arm Wrestling Newz because that's what the channel was about. And then I shifted it to, I thought I would change it to News again, NEWS, when my channel surpasses their channel, because it is clear that they don't have any, not patent, they don't have any, what do you call it, copyright or trademark.
Exactly.
They
There's no
haven't,
trade. Yeah.
they haven't trademarked it yet. But then as I crossed their channel in terms of subscribers and views, because they were not uploading regularly, and whenever I search Arm Wrestling Newz, NEWS, my channel shows up at the top. So now I think there is no need to change it to NEWS again, because
That's true.
anything you type, News NEWZ is going to show up.
It's interesting to know the background. I was very curious about that. I thought maybe there have been another channel, but you touched on something important also. So maybe fans are sometimes finicky. They might say, "Oh, we already know this information." But one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the channel is because I feel like you're doing a great service actually to the arm wrestling community, because that kind of introductory content, which is for me maybe not. I haven't been paying attention to arm wrestling for 2 years, so I don't know what's been going on. So even for me, it's not. But even especially for the people that are not arm wrestlers, this is the easiest way to get people interested in the sport. So it's really a great, valuable service. But before we get into that, I want to ask you some short questions about your background. So I know you're 27. I asked you about, you live in, is it called Haryana? Or you're originally from, Haryana?
I'm originally from Haryana.
So for people that don't know, that's like at the almost at the north of the Indian map, very high up there. And I think you grew up in a neighboring state that's also very, and Haryana contains Delhi, or is it the same state as Delhi?
Delhi is the capital of India. State Haryana and Delhi are touching. The boundaries, the borders are touching.
Delhi's not a city, it's a state.
It's a capital of India.
Okay, interesting. Because I noticed they're so close to each other. Anyway, so then you moved to, I learned, to Uttar Pradesh for a while.
Uttar Pradesh, yeah.
And then now you live in where?
West Bengal. I'm working in West Bengal.
Away. Interesting.
Far away.
So when you told me your last name, which is Singh, which my audience, I have a lot of actually followers who are Singhs also. So I was curious, immediately I wanted to ask if you were Sikh, but you told me something very fascinating to me, which is that you belong to people called Jat, which I never heard of before. I heard of like Rajputs in the north and some other groups also, but I went to Wikipedia, of course, as I normally do. I like to read about these things. And it seems the Jats are fascinating people. I mean, they seem to have played a role, for example, I think the connection, maybe you can correct me and maybe teach me more about this, but the connection with the word Singh is that same time period where the Sikhs became militarized against the Mughal rulers who were like treating them badly and stuff. I think that the Jats as a population were also involved in that. Is that the connection?
Yeah. I don't know much about the cultural history, but there are two things about Jats that I know, that they were both also the fighting class and the farmers at the same time.
Exactly.
They
I
were
remember
both.
that. Fascinating. Yeah, in some states, they're actually like, I think it's in Rajasthan, they have government help for Jats. They're considered like, they call it an other backward class. But in
Yeah,
other
yeah.
states, they're like the opposite.
No, there is. In Uttar Pradesh, there is also government help. OBC, we call it other backward class. But in Haryana, from where I was born, the Jats are considered upper class, so they are
Yeah.
not. But sadly, I don't think anybody needs a reservation system, but still, it is a part of India.
Yeah, that's a really
Unfortunate
interesting
for me.
thing. You know, we don't understand that in the West. Not many countries have that. So is it just a system like to protect disenfranchised minorities, like in the community?
It was. I think some people argue that right now it is just for the vote bank. Because the lower classes were highly oppressed in India back then. But right now, maybe in a few areas, few very backward areas, but not everywhere in India. Because right now you can see people exploiting that rule, the OBC and or other or lower classes like SC, ST, the benefits of that the government give them. So you can get a government job easily if you are other backward class or even below that, scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. So some people exploit that. One of them gets a good high paying officer's job because of their caste. Right now their family is elevated from all of the financial problems and everything, all the status social problems, but their children and their children and their children after that, all of them keep getting the same benefits. So that should not happen.
This is
And
actually
if you
something.
decide that, yeah, some people argue that it should be defined by the amount of money you earn, but that's also a gray area when people can get poverty cards made, income cards made easily here in India. So it is really difficult to manage that.
This touches on some similarities in the US with affirmative action. That was a policy they had in the 70s, this being reintroduced recently.
This policy is still needed, I would say, in some places in India. Definitely needed, but not in at least 90% of or 80% of India right now. But it exists everywhere.
Now tell me, before we get into arm wrestling in India, which is very mysterious, what is the fitness scene like? I understand India is a very culturally heterogeneous, very different cultures, and every state is maybe different. But say where you were growing up in Haryana and later Uttar Pradesh, what do young men do for fitness? Do they do fitness? Is fitness popular? Do people exercise? Do they do certain sports like cricket? What's it like, the environment? And then, in general.
Cricket is huge in India. Nothing is bigger than cricket. I think like the national sport in India is hockey. I don't know much about that, but
hockey?
I would assume why it is hockey. Yeah, hockey is the national sport in India.
I didn't know that. What?
Why?
What?
Because in the 90s, even before the world wars, India won like 4 or 5 gold medals in the Olympics continuously. Like if India went into the Olympics, it was almost assumed sure that India is going to win the gold. So that was the story before the 1950s, or I would say even 1960s. India has won like 10, 11 medals in the Olympics, I think, in the hockey. So that is why it is a national sport in India.
I had no idea. I've been around Indians my whole life and never heard of this.
There are some rumors about Hitler calling the captain of Indian hockey team, Dhyan Chand, to play for him, and Dhyan Chand denied that because I won't leave my country. Some people say it is fake because Hitler hasn't, or Dhyan Chand hasn't mentioned that in his biography. So that is the biggest question, whether it is true or not. But that's the story why hockey is the national sport in India. But right now, if that weren't the case, I'm quite sure cricket would be the national sport, but it isn't in the Asian Games or Olympics. Maybe that could also be the reason why. But almost everyone, 90%, you can talk to anyone in India. Have you played cricket? They would say yes. Everyone has played cricket in India.
Are most people, because I know a lot of people are studious there, are most people athletic though, like in college and high school, or only some people play? Not everybody is into athletic sports.
Everyone plays. That's the thing here. Everyone plays, but not all are interested in the professional thing, like making it a career. That is what is lacking here in India. It has started like fitness. You asked about fitness. From where I was born in Haryana, everyone is into strength. I would not say much about other sports, but people over there love strength.
Interesting.
That is the biggest thing.
Fascinating. So, do people? Okay, before we go to YouTube, actually, let me ask you about YouTube now, because part about of the before we get into the arm wrestling side, there is a big YouTube fitness community. I realized this that it's in India. That's actually in like most of the videos are actually in like half Hindi and half English. So sometimes I can watch these videos and I pick up some words in English, but it's actually very difficult to follow along. Like one of the smaller channels, his name is We Are Stupid with an R.
Stupid.
You've seen that one?
Yes, he is a retired Indian Air Force officer.
Yeah, and he's like a more like knowledge based one. But then there's some other ones also that have up to 1 million subscribers. They're very big followings. Maybe some are more than that even.
In India, I would say at least a dozen or maybe even more than that are over 1 million subscribers in the fitness industry.
In the fitness industry. So is it common for a dozen people? So there is a fitness like culture there. People watch YouTube videos, go to the gym, stuff like that. Very interesting. Now, how did you you've mentioned to Devin Larato in the interview that you were arm wrestling people naturally for a very long time. How did you learn about professional arm wrestling?
My first experience with professional arm wrestling was, I would say, around 2015 when I watched a Game of Arms Travis Bagent highlight footage.
Oh,
so
really?
Travis Bagent he got me into arm wrestling in 2015. That's how I got into it. And after that, I've been watching arm wrestling continuously for like 3, 4, 5 years. But in 2019, I saw a poster that in Delhi, it is one arm wrestling championship, VCAI, that is going to be organized in India. So I thought, I've never thought about it, that I could also arm wrestle. Why I'm just watching it? I could also arm wrestle. I used to arm wrestle. I used to beat all my colleagues, all my schoolmates, all my college batchmates, everyone at my
But now
job.
this is without practice though.
Yeah, that was without practice.
Oh.
Uncle John, do you know Uncle John's arm wrestling show?
Yeah,
There
I've
is a
seen
channel
that.
in arm wrestling. He mentioned very interesting thing. I think it was about a couple of years ago, or maybe less than that. He said how to identify if you're a novice in arm wrestling, if you're a beginner in arm wrestling. And one point was very interesting that made me laugh. He said that if you haven't lost any arm wrestling match, then you're definitely a novice. And that fits so well with me at that time, 2 years ago. I had never lost an arm wrestling match.
Wow.
So that woke me up a little bit.
So you went to the tournament and it went badly?
No, I would not say
badly, but
badly.
like...
It was national. I had 5 matches and I won 3 of them.
Wow,
So-
fantastic.
2 of them were beginners like me. That is what I always say. If you don't have arm wrestling table experience, if you have just went to the gym, most probably I will beat you. But if you have 1 year experience, 1.5, 2 years of table time experience, not gym, table time, most likely I would lose to you.
But
That is the case with me.
How well developed is the tournament structure in India? Is there a lot of tournaments across the states? I've heard that, for example, in Kerala, they have unusual, which has surprised me, by the way. I would have thought maybe North Indians, Punjabis, or Pathan and these kind of people would be more like, wrestling, but somehow in Kerala it's doing very well. So how many tournaments are there? Does it go on? Is it popular? And how did it get in Kerala?
I would say around not more than 10, 15 states out of the 28 states that we have, not more than that have arm wrestling tournaments, state tournaments, maybe 15. I'm not sure about that. But the most active active states in arm wrestling in India are Kerala and Assam. So even if you go to Google Trends,
so just for people to know, that's the bottom and the top.
Northeast and South.
Yeah, exactly. Assam is where they have the perfumes come from and stuff like that. Yeah.
So if you go to Google Trends and you search arm wrestling in India, the dark blue colors will be Kerala, then Assam, and then the Punjab and Haryana side maybe.
Fascinating. But that's literally across India. It's interesting how it got popular. So what do you think? I'm very, by the way, happy to let the audience know that you have now a new YouTube channel in Hindi. And you're doing that to try to popularize it in India a little bit, huh?
Yes, that's the plan, because people keep on asking me why don't I upload in Hindi? That is my first language. I should promote India. But I thought that there is not enough audience for this type of content in India. Like if you watch any arm wrestling video in India, the ones that have the views are where the actual matches are. Nobody right now is interested in hearing you talking. It is completely different. It may be the same in the eastern part of the world, the European side, but it is not the same in Western culture now. In Western side, arm wrestling is big enough that people are interested in hearing what you have to say about that match, your analysis of the match, your breakdown of the match, your build up towards the match, and your kind of post-mortem to the match, why you lost or why you won. So people right now there is no audience in India, so I was waiting for that, but I know there won't be such type of audience in India for at least 4 or 5 years. So I thought, why not I create it myself. I talked to Neil Pickup about that. He said, you can do it, brother. I did it in England. There was no arm wrestling in England before him. Like Ryan Bowen did it in Australia. There was no arm wrestling in Australia before Ryan Bowen. Maybe there was, but not so popular.
That's very true.
But their route was different. Neil Pickup was a world champion. Ryan Bowen is also an awesome arm wrestler, currently about to be number 1 in Australia. So what can I do? I only have the social media part. So I think I should utilize my strengths or my experience, whatever little experience I have, to build that in India. It is just on a trial method right now, but I think I'll work hard and I'll make it happen.
Yeah, but I think like Ryan did a lot for the community in Australia before he became very competitive. In the first few years, he did a lot for. I mean, that's how I think. I'm not sure, but I think a lot of the followership loved watching the journey. And you can follow the journey through one person or through the story of the community as a whole, which is what you tell. You know,
Ryan said something like he made something like $36 in the first 5 years on his YouTube. That is a really difficult thing, to be active on YouTube without any financial reward. Yeah, $36 in 5 weeks, because there was no audience back then.
Exactly. Many people don't know this, but a lot of the big YouTube channels in the fitness industry also were the same for 4 or 5 years or more than that, posting at least weekly content and, you know, no revenue or growth even. And then suddenly you figure out something and it works right. Not everybody, you know, grows as quickly. But can I ask you, so how did you decide? Because I think it's a really brave choice to make an arm wrestling news channel. Like, we barely even realized that people want to hear other people talk about arm wrestling. And those were mostly pros. Like Ryan is an exception, right? Yeah. So sitting in India, having never like personally met one of these top pros from the West, but just loving the sport, what gave you the bravery to open the channel? And then beyond that, how did you come up with your unique, what is your process of making videos? Because it's very interesting. Like you chose to do voice only, which for me, I wanted to do. Actually, I used to run a blog originally and I wanted to just do, but I thought that nobody will accept it. So I just didn't try it. So how did you come up with your unique style and how did you have that bravery to go out and try it?
Yeah, that was also my thought, that nobody is going to accept it. But at that same time, I also knew, I predicted that there will be audience for that. People would want to know what is happening in the arm wrestling community. And the biggest thing was that nobody was doing that. Armwrestling News, there I would say there are a few channels right now who are covering all the events. That right now the big channels are also covering every event that is happening right now. So at that time there wasn't any. So my only concern was the accent, whether people would accept the accent, the Indian accent from a person, from an arm wrestler who is less experienced than. Would they accept it? And in the beginning, right, I used to get a lot of, and how I started, I don't think it was much of a concern or anything for me. I just thought that I would make a video and see how it works. I asked a couple of friends, right? If you have watched my channel, the first 3 videos I uploaded was of me arm wrestling and not the news. And then I was going to mess to eat food with a couple of my friends. I said, should I upload arm wrestling news videos? Would people be interested in that? And their answer was obvious, no, don't do it. Nobody's going to accept it. What do you know about arm wrestling? So I said, I thought I should give it a try, and it worked. It started working. And what gave boost to my channel was a Devin Larato versus Michael Todd rivalry video. I did that and got like, right now it has like over 300,000 views. So that kind of got my channel monetized. So I was really lucky with that. I got my channel monetized within 6-7 months, I would say. And that gave me the push to keep continuing on YouTube.
Wow.
And what was the other thing I was talking about? The accent part. So right in the beginning, I was getting a lot of comments about the accent.
Me too. I get a lot of weird, not anymore, but me too. It's not just you, by the way, brother. Let me tell you, it's not just for Indians. It's anything that they not.
That's what I thought.
Anything weird, you know, for me, it's like you terrorist, scum, whatever. I'm only half Arab, by the way. I'm half American, but still, you terrorist. Anything, if they notice a little bit of accent, I just want you to know it's just for you. But how did you deal with it?
To
be honest, I'll tell you something. I think that your accent on your show, it's charming. It's like, you know, it's Pradeep immediately when you hear the accent. It's actually something that characterizes you in a good way, but yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Maybe I could use it. I heard about something about Arnold. That gave me real good motivation, right?
Good point.
First, he said that when I was being trying to get into the movies, people said you speak like a robot. You don't even know how to speak English. How are you going to survive in that Hollywood industry? So he said, I got a role. Maybe I think he was talking about Terminator or some other movie. He said I was supposed to look big in that role and I was supposed to talk like a robot. So that's what whatever I thought it was my weakness, it turned into my strength. So maybe I thought maybe people would find something unique. If it was a just regular English guy giving arm wrestling news, people would not associate as much because they've been hearing that accent for a long time. If they hear something unique, something different, that immediately clicks in their mind, whether they like it or not.
But so tell me this, when you receive the comment every time, initially when you first have a channel, you love your channel and you love the people subscribe to you. So when you don't expect that kind of comment, how did you deal with it psychologically? Because I've heard you mention before, like you respond in a nice way.
Yeah, hard.
But initially, you never got upset about it. You just immediately had that good strategy.
I did in the beginning. Like I thought about replying. Like, were you watching the video for the content, or were you?
I've done that so many times.
to hear a beautiful accent. What was your initial thought when you started watching that video? Comment. I used to reply like, I am ready to accept any kind of hate or accent or even racist comments. I'm totally okay with that. I don't think racism exists. For me, it doesn't. I don't feel bad. You can call me anything. Like people used to call like, at what gas station do you work at? Are you about to scam me?
I get the gas station too also, by the way. It's not just for Indians.
There's a lot of love between us. So initially I used to say, I'm okay with everything that you're saying. If you say something, a critique comment or something about the video, you comment something about the video, plus you gave me hate comments, racist comments, I'm totally okay with that. But at least talk something about the video so that I can get some feedback. But they never used to do. And after that, that is what YouTube has taught me. Agree with everyone, agree with the haters, and they'll be happy. Now I just give them a heart or reply with a thank you, brother. Thank you. And sometimes they delete their comment, sometimes they edit their comment. It always works. It works 100% of the time.
I think it might indicate that the reason that people are writing those comments is because they want interaction, and maybe something about the nature of watching somebody every day but never interacting with him builds up like antagonism in the person. So I think you might be right. I'm going to try this next time. But tell me something. So I've watched something very interesting about your channel when I was paying attention now today to the videos. Your video view count on most videos is almost your total subscriber count, which is a very good sign. I've noticed that before. When people are about to grow a lot, the view count is similar to the subscriber count. So you figured something out about the algorithm, it must be. Now, let's talk about the algorithm briefly. So one thing I thought about is, actually, an Armwrestling Newz channel is actually very intelligent by design, because by design you have to talk about other people in the title. So it's constantly upregulated by the algorithm by nature, huh?
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
It is my channel, but it gives me the benefits to talk about
because it's connected.
Chippies, the Levans, the Devin Laratos, the Ryan SPs. I can talk about them. So that gives the benefit. And news channel, there are a lot of pros about a news channel and very few cons. So the pros, I would say, I don't have to think what should I come up with the next. This is called YouTuber saturation. And there is one YouTuber called Beer Biceps and Ranveer Allahabadia. He runs at least 3-4 channels, and 2 of them have silver button and two of them have gold play button. So over 3 million subscribers on both channels. So he said something interesting, that the average life of a YouTuber, the career of a YouTuber is about 5 to 10 years. And after that, it starts getting saturated. You start getting bored, and YouTube starts to push new creators. Even if you have 5 million subscribers, 10 million subscribers, somebody less than 1 million subscribers would be getting as much views as you. And that is why you may have seen a lot of YouTubers who has 20, 25, 30 million subscribers. They stop uploading on YouTube because their videos don't get that many views after that time, and they find better career opportunities. That is the big reason.
I think the latter also.
So they kind of drop up. So about news, I don't have to think constantly, pressurize myself. What do I have to come up with next? What should be my next video? But then again, if there is no news, I'm just kind of waiting something to happen. I'm like, Ryan Bowen, please say something controversial so that I can cover it in my
So
video.
on that topic, since you bring it up, but without getting into details, how was this? Apparently, you made some early videos about Ryan Bowen that were controversial, and then you stopped making any controversial videos because you said it's not good for the channel. But what was it? Was it about the RVJ versus Ryan time period, or was it delusional Ryan Bowen type stuff?
There was one guy, he was, I don't remember which country he was from, Khaled in Larry Wheels videos.
Yes.
You may have seen him.
Yeah.
So he had a like really.
Oh, he said
strong
there's 10
hand.
of those in Australia.
Yeah, 8 of those. That is when it started. So my problem was that he said about the grip thing. Neil Pickup even confirmed that I'm talking about the grip, brother, grip sport, grip strength, not arm wrestling.
Yeah.
And even then, Ryan Bowen said that yes, still there are 8 guys who are stronger than him. And then after a few days, he changed that to I was talking about arm wrestling. I was not talking about grip.
Well,
that is when I made that video. Like you were clearly talking about grip. Still, if Ryan says something weird, I would still make videos. He's right now a member on my channel. So people have started commenting like right now, Ryan Bowen is paying you so that you are making nicer videos about him. And I just said, did you watch my last video?
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
He had these 5 goals and I roasted him for like 3 of them. How can you say that right now he's paying me so I'm being nice to towards
Okay,
him?
I have two comments. So one about Khaled. So Khaled apparently was discovered by Badr, right, in Dubai.
Yeah.
And Badr is a friend of mine from a long time. Maybe I've known him maybe 15 years or so. Badr is obsessed with grip. Like you never met anybody in your life that obsessed with it. So he has
He's still
first of all, his family owns a gym supply company. In fact, he made my gym back home actually. So he has a huge gym supply company. In the store, he has every equipment you could ever imagine for hands. So whenever anyone strong comes in the store, he has them like, oh, go try this, go lift this. So if Badr found Khaled out of all the thousands of people he must have interviewed, this guy is very strong for sure. You know, it must be something else. I told Ryan this, but Ryan is a very confident. You gotta admit that. Second thing I wanted to say, Ryan is a gem to the community. He's a source of just optimism and enthusiasm, you know, except before when he was sad a little bit, but otherwise he's just so I think everyone benefits whenever Ryan has his confidence, you know, just like you said, it's a great thing to be confident in yourself, and for the people that are laughing, it's also funny, you know. So
about Khaled, I think he lifted, what is the heaviest dumbbell? There is a Thomas inch dumbbell,
The inch dumbbell.
that, the Millennium dumbbell, something like that.
yeah,
It is
I
much
heard
heavier
about
than
that.
So Branshaw and Eddie Hall tried that. Eddie Hall couldn't lift that dumbbell, and Branshaw lifted it, I think, twice. And Khaled was wrapping it 5-6 times.
And he's not tall, right? He's not tall,
Yeah,
but he has big hands. Yeah.
Yeah, 6'1", 6'2", I would guess. But he has
Yeah.
a really big hand, about 9.5 inches, I think.
Now tell me about something else. Apparently, I didn't know this before. I found out from your interview with Devin Larato. Apparently, most of your audience is Western, like mine. But apparently,
Yes.
Indian audiences pay less because of the country, I guess, generally pays less for advertisements or buys less products. Is that what it is?
I think every channel has about 5 to 7% Indian audience. You must also be having that
Yeah, I have some
number on your
yeah.
channel, right?
I'd
So,
like more though.
On my channel, it is 7% Indian audience. So the CPM, the cost per mille, as they call it, or the RPM, the amount per 1,000 views, is almost 1/7 of what we get from the United States.
Fascinating.
So the RPM from United States can be up to $7. In India, it is almost always less than $1 per 1,000 views.
Did you know that this also depends on the subject matter? So, for example, if you have a business channel, you make much more money than a fitness or athletics one. Yeah,
Financial videos always get more, and after that, the least is, I think, fitness videos. The least
it might be.
CPM
It might be.
Then comedy videos, then regular videos like mine and yours, and then after that, the financial videos, they get the highest amount of views. And I was saying $1, not $1. In India, the CPM is around, I would say, 0.2 or $0.3, 30 cents per 1,000 views, something like that.
Fascinating. Now,
So that is very low.
I know you're looking to make this a full-time career eventually, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Really, the dream is to live somewhere like in India and have a Western audience and have a YouTube channel, so you can be relaxed and focus on doing what you love.
I would like to say something interesting about that. Not interesting, kind of disappointing, but also interesting at the same time. So when I started a Hindi channel, I posted that in one of my WhatsApp groups, All Indians in that group. So one guy commented that, I think you hate India. You are demotivating Indians. You are demoralizing Indians. And I'm like, what is your point? He said in the Devin Larato interview, you said that India is poor and we Indians we don't have money, we don't have anything. So you are kind of putting back in India, India. So
you said that you said actually the exchange rate. You didn't even talk about the poverty at all. You were talking about the exchange rate.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I tried to tell him that I was talking about it whenever people ask me to move to the States, I tell them to move to India.
Yeah.
Because living here is cheap.
Yeah.
You don't need to have
This is a very interesting subject.
If you're earning like $1,000, let's say your channel is making $1,000, which I would assume is about right. And you move to India, you can make a living of that very easily.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is what I said.
In the bodybuilding world, we have a lot of people that live in Thailand. They like to go live in Thailand because it's a bit cheap. Now, Thailand is not nearly as cheap as some even beautiful places in India. You know, Kerala, for example, has some beautiful sites. You can live on the beach and eat fish all day and maybe spend $500 a month on your rent and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I meant. But you actually in the video were talking about exchange rates, which is so these are two issues: cost of living and exchange rates. Unfortunately, your friend. Yeah, that person must have thought you were saying people were poor, not the cost of living is low. Cost of living is low is a good thing.
I said it is a really good thing for us Indians if we can make some money from arm wrestling. If there is some good arm wrestler, if he can train Americans, let's say for
I heard what you said. That was a brilliant point.
If he can train 10 Americans for $100, because Americans are, let's say, charging $200 for that. Exactly, if an Indian with the same level of experience can train them for $100, he can get $1,000 and he can make a living of that $1,000. That is what I was saying. And for him, that point was showing that my country is poor and demoralizing Indians.
Yeah, no, that's not at all what you meant. But what I'm curious to ask also is so now I've seen the last question I want to ask you. I've seen that you do now you've done 2 lives, which I watched through one of them, the most recent one. And you do also sometimes little bit of opinion pieces and predictions and stuff like that. Are you planning to expand the content in this channel past news a little bit? Like, for example, to be honest with you, in the Devin Larato interview, by the middle of the interview, you became the podcast host and you were interviewing Devin. Because I know you're a fan of Devin, so you want to ask him some questions, but you interviewed in a very good way. I was thinking, why doesn't he do also a podcast? Maybe it won't be so popular, but maybe it could add some richness. So I'm just curious, what are you looking at doing in the future? Other kind of content, or are you going to stick to the same content, which I think is brilliant as well?
I think I'm going to stick to that content, and I'm not going to do lives with other members or other inviting other people on my channel, because I don't think it is the right way. I mentioned that in my last live stream also. Right now, what arm wrestling community is doing, and I don't mean anything bad for them, but everyone is doing live streams with the host and a co-host or in someone you invite, and they're talking with each other and only responding to super chats. I don't think this is the right way to do. Like, you're not doing live. You could have gone live, right? And
but it's not as popular. I think in arm wrestling it's very popular because they just found out about the super chat thing, and the channels are still a bit smaller, so the total revenue is not high. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
And you can see that on any channel, any big channel, nobody is doing podcasts live. For live, I think should be for the sole purpose of interacting with your audience.
Exactly.
So if I'm planning only doing lives and not interviews or podcasts with someone. However, I'm totally open if somebody invites me on their channel. I cannot say no if you are inviting me on their channel. That is a pleasure. And by the way, has any Indian ever been on your channel?
No, I was going to tell you this. This is one of my honors that this is the first time I had an Indian on. I've been trying to get one of the Indian bodybuilding channels to come on my channel, but this is such a great honor. I'm so happy to have you. Yeah, very much so.
The honor is mine. Yeah. I should feel proud about that I'm the first Indian on your channel. And I think it was the same with the Devin Larato video. I think there has not been any Indian on his channel. In his videos, there has been a couple of Indians, but they live in Canada. I don't think anyone has been on his channel from India. I
have to say that speaks to the character of Devin Larato also, because I came across you maybe 2 months ago. The YouTube algorithm likes you. It recommended your channel to me, and I was like, there's a news channel for arm wrestling? I was very happy. And then, just before I spoke to Artem last time, I saw Devin interviewed you. And this, just shows how much he cares about the community. He goes out of his way to because he believes in the resource of your channel and wants to promote it. Really a great thing. He's a wonderful guy.
I was really happy. I was more than happy. I was shocked. How can Devin reply to all of my messages? He must be getting thousands of messages, and he almost replied to every one of my comments. And one day he said that I love your channel. Your videos are great. Whatever you're doing is amazing. Then I started talking with him a little bit more. And one day I told him that I wanted to meet you in 2018 when you came to India, but I had a shoulder surgery just a week before that. So I couldn't come. So then he said that we can have an interview. That is how things worked out.
How tall are you, by the way? I heard you say you have a 6'2" wingspan, so you must be tall, huh?
I am about 5'10" and a half, 179 centimeters.
Similar to me. So I met Devin, by the way. These guys are huge in person when you see them in person. I mean, his hand like overwhelmed my hand. I didn't realize how much taller they. Even Dmitry Trubin also, by the way, huge in person, and Matt Mask, and not just tall, but they have long arms, so they look like they could climb walls or something like that.
You're about. Where did you meet them?
Well, you know why I met Devin actually came to the gym I used to train at, Scott Mendelson's gym. Devin used to come there, but actually I met Devin at the WAL regionals. They used to do sometime, not regionals, but the competitions in California, in LA. And I used to live downtown, 1 mile, less than 1 mile from where they compete. So every time they would come, I would go to watch them. So you can see me actually in some of the background of some of the competitions with Scott. Yeah.
I heard you were also talking about that. You are also about the same height, right?
5'10",
something like 5'10". Yeah.
I think it's the worst arm wrestling height, in between. So you don't have the short advantages, but you usually don't have a very tall arm either, you know? And then you're in the most competitive division, height wise. Yeah, exactly.
But you looked really lean in your, I would say at least even 7, 8, 9, 10 months ago. Have you gained a lot of weight since then?
Yes, I gained a lot of. I stopped fasting and I started gaining muscle. I stopped fasting because my wife was pregnant and she was eating a lot. And so I started eating a lot. And then the second thing that happened was, you know, I used to climb. I stopped lifting weights for a long time in arm wrestling. I started climbing. But the climbing gyms didn't open back here. And I started saying, you know, I have to do something. So I went back to the gym. But as the gym it's an addictive thing, you start to lift weights, then you say, I should eat a little bit more protein. And then I started gaining some muscle. So that's what happened. But brother, listen, I wanted to let you go now because I have another podcast to record, but I've been so honored to have you here. I want to let the audience know, if anyone got so far, find the Armwrestling Newz Instagram as well, because I was ashamed to see there's only 300 people following it, and I think more people should follow your Instagram. Maybe, by the way, you can post sometimes like a brief Instagram, like bullet points on news or something like that to get, because it's hard for people like us to get the Instagram going because we're not posting pictures of ourselves, you know?
Yeah, I'm not really active on Instagram. I should be, but I'm not posting as much as I should. Yeah, you should. Then I would get the followers, but it is because of me. I'm not active there on Instagram.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to link your channel here. I hope more people find out about it. It's such a great resource. And we'll have you on again sometime with other people. Maybe we can chat with Artem and co.
For sure.
All right.
I'd be really happy if you invite me.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much. Great to meet you.